Here we go. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that. I had myself all set up to unmute myself and then I forgot. Good morning, Unity in the Olympics. It is such an honor to be with you here today. Thank you so much for having me here today. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So, there's this weird thing that can happen when a minister chooses a subject to talk about. You've probably heard this before. We immerse ourselves in the topic. We do lots of reading and research and listening and prayer. And lo and behold, we have the wonderful opportunity to experience the effects of whatever that topic is. For example, if we decide we're going to write a talk about forgiveness, well, it seems to give us the opportunity to practice a lot of forgiveness. And talking about prosperity can give us the opportunity to bump up against things where or beliefs that we might still be holding on with regards to thoughts of lack. So with that in mind, I thought really long and hard about my topic for this Sunday and decided that I'm going to speak to you about the migration patterns of the modern monarch butterfly and then share a really good recipe for banana bread. So no, just kidding. Today, I'd like to talk to you about healing. And I actually prefer to refer to it as revealing or integrating because healing can carry the connotation that there's something wrong with us that we have to fix. But for the purpose of our conversation today, we'll go ahead and use the word healing. And I'd like to talk about healing for two reasons. The first is that over the years, I have spent immersed in the wisdom of our forebears. A nagging feeling began to grow that new thought as a whole had kind of gotten off track. The more I read and the more I became convinced that we'd lost something vitally important. And what I think happened is that as we became more focused on the outcome, on what outpictures in the physical, many of us lost the true value of the teaching that our founders tried to convey. And the second reason I want to talk about healing is that healing is foundational to our movement. On an evening in 1886, Myrtle attended the first, what she called truth class in Kansas City, Missouri. And there she heard words that would not only change her life, but the lives of generations to come. Healing is foundational to our movement, and her healing in particular, because her outer healing gave others the impetus to give her teachings a try. The truth of the matter is that unity might not exist but for Myrtle's healing. And a little background for those of you who might be new or newerish to unity. Myrtle and Charles Fillmore are the co-founders of Unity. In 1886, Myrtle was very ill and had been so for a long time. She had been diagnosed with tuberculosis and several other ailments. With that motivation, she attended an early New Thought class where she heard words of truth that she immediately put into practice. And 2 years later, she was healthy and well and went on to live to the ripe age of 86. She began practicing what she learned with others, and they got better as well. Then Charles, her husband, became interested, and to make a long story short, Unity was born. So in 1886, Myrtle attended her first truth class taught by E.B. Weeks because she was sick. In her words, "It was many years ago that the truth of being was first brought to my notice. There seemed to be urgent need of relief if my stay on this planet was to be prolonged. It was at the solicitation of friends already interested that my husband and I attended the first truth class taught in the city, Kansas City, Missouri. I must have been fully ready for the first lesson, for it filled and satisfied all the empty, hungry longings of my soul and heart. Human language cannot express the vastness of the possibilities I saw unrolled before me, my possibilities. While the routine of life went on pretty much the same, a new world opened up within me. The physical claims that had been considered so serious faded away before the dawning of a new consciousness. And I found that my body temple had been literally transformed through the renewing of my mind. Through the renewing of her mind, or said another way, by a shift in consciousness. But somewhere along the line, we've changed focus. The renewing of our mind no longer seems to be the goal for most of us who set about healing work, whether that healing work is for physical ailments or prosperity or relationships. The goal has become what we get. And what I find so interesting is that when I read the works of many of our New Thought pioneers, they taught that it was all about the renewing of our minds. Case in point, here's what Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of religious science, had to say when he wrote Science of Mind back in 1938. Lessons on prosperity and mental control of conditions are sometimes dangerous because of the misunderstanding of this subject. Science of Mind is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Neither does it promise something for nothing. It does, however, promise the one who will comply with its teachings that he shall be able to bring greater possibilities and happier conditions into his or her experience. We do not teach that you can get what you want. It doesn't get any clearer than that. Even while we teach that thought is creative and manifests, paradoxically, the focus is not on the manifestation. And I don't think anyone can really mark the moment when we as an overall movement changed our focus from the inner to the outer, but it's not surprising that this happened. It occurred to me a while back that because Myrtle did have a pretty spectacular physical healing, and because other New Thought leaders and students have also demonstrated notable outer manifestations, those outer manifestations are like a big flashing neon light in our world, where getting and having seem to be of greatest import. New Thought is often thought of as a get stuff teaching, because in my opinion, our focus, our selling point, so to speak, has been these outer manifestations. They're obvious, they're shiny, they're desirable, and we want them. And so they can appear to be the goal. And to be honest, for Myrtle and also for New Thought teacher and author Frederick Bales, it was the goal in the beginning. Myrtle was sick and had been given months to live. Frederick Bales had diabetes before insulin was discovered, which meant that at the time of his diagnosis, it was a fatal disease. So when these two first got the idea in their heads that health could again be theirs, you're darn tootin', that was their goal. It's human nature. If we're short on money, we want some. If our health is poor, we want it to improve. If we want a relationship and don't have one, then, well, we want one. And if we're uncomfortable, most of us want to get comfortable again. But in a seeming paradox, what Myrtle and Frederick learned and subsequently taught was that the outer is merely a reflection of the inner, and therefore the work is to be done always, always in consciousness. And when you read their words, the true healing happened on the inside first, and then showed up on the outside. And so here's Myrtle sharing her learning about this. She said, at that time, healing seemed the most important thing in life to me. I loved seeing folks get well and happy, and I do yet, but I have learned that the spiritual awakening and the daily development of Christ's powers are more important. The soul must be awakened and brought to a realization of the truth and encouraged in the righteous use of all the God-given faculties and powers. The individual must be helped to unify his spirit, soul, and body in harmonious spiritual living here and now. Your spiritual awakening is the important thing. So backing up, if Myrtle hadn't been sick, she might have never agreed to go listen to E.B. Weeks. Or if she had, his words might not have had the same influence on her. It may not have landed so deeply in her. As it was, because she was so sick and wanted to be well, his words landed on her in a very impactful way. So this illness of hers led eventually to her spiritual awakening. In fact, we could go so far as to say that Myrtle's illness was the impetus for her spiritual awakening. In the same vein, if Frederick Bale's circumstances hadn't been so dire, he may have never given Thomas Troward's book a second glance. His illness was also the impetus for his seeking, which led to his spiritual awakening. So I'm going to just leap right off the cliff here, and I hope you'll catch me. This is a different way of looking at a different way of looking at difficult circumstances. Rather than looking at difficult circumstances as failures or something negative, difficult circumstances can be viewed as the impetus to get us up out of our easy chairs and into motion for growth. Sometimes we need to get uncomfortable in order to grow, which means that we might want to stop viewing illness as a failure or that we've done something wrong. You know that we don't know how many people in Unity were healed during the time of Myrtle and Charles, because according to James Dillett Freeman in his book, The Household of Faith, at first, the Fillmores did not publish many testimonials of healing in their magazine because, as they said, they wanted to place the emphasis on the teaching and on the spiritual results rather than on the physical ones. So why do you think this is? Again, my opinion, because after all, Sundays are kind of a one-sided conversation. I think that once Myrtle understood that it was her inner healing that was the real deal, that it was an inside-out job, she knew that if the emphasis was placed on outer results rather than on the inner shift in consciousness, people would show up expecting to be healed without understanding the importance of the inner shift, which must occur first. People might still follow the recipe, so to speak, but looking to the world of form rather than to our inner landscape is not how it works. If our attention is on the outer, waiting for results to show up without having first made that shift in consciousness, it can make God or the universe or principle seem fickle or capricious, or leave us feeling that our teachings don't work consistently. And I think that many of us do have this nagging feeling that our teachings don't really work anymore or don't work all the time. And I think this just might be because we're working with the wrong definition of healing, and we're missing out on the true value of what Unity and New Thought in general teaches. And if we can get that back, we might have more of the capital G good in our lives that we're wanting. So, what might be a better definition of healing? When I read our early New Thought teachers, this is what I hear. Healing isn't about the body. Healing isn't about materializing outer stuff. Healing is about wholeness. It's about truth. It's about the knowing so deep that it cannot be doubted, that we cannot be separate from God. It's about knowing that we know that we know that. It's a felt state. We know it so much that we feel the godness flowing in our veins. We experience the breath of God in our lungs. We know it to be in every crevice of our being, both physical and energetic. We are whole. We are one with the one. It is a knowing of the truth of our being that is so pure that when we close our eyes and whisper it to ourselves, it rings clear and pure through every molecule of our being, and it bumps into nothing that contradicts it. It is the knowing that knows that all that is true about God is true about us. It is that truth that Yeshua ben Joseph taught that sets us free. The healing happens inside first. It is healing of our mind, of our beliefs, of our positionality. And like Ernest Holmes says, when we comply with the teachings, lovely stuff also shows up in our outer lives. But I'll bet if you talk to almost all of the people who have done just that, or if you yourself have done that, they and you will tell you that there was an inner shift before the results showed up on the outside. And I know that there are some in my community who would attest to that. And I imagine that there are those of you here in this community as well. This shift in consciousness is always internal, always inside. It's what Myrtle was talking about when she said, human language cannot express the vastness of the possibilities I saw unrolled before me, my possibilities. And while the routine of life went on pretty much the same, a new world opened within me. But a momentary realization, no matter how profound, needs support from us. And we know this. We've all had profound insights. I know that I've certainly have. And those kinds of insights where we just have to sit down, it's so big, but it won't sustain itself. If I enjoy it for a few minutes and then go about business as usual, it will fade and I won't reap the benefits of it. I have to sustain it by reaffirming it, by bringing it out of the fleeting aha and into the marrow of my bones.
She makes sense.
And that takes persistence and dedication. And Myrtle spoke to that in her own practice, as did Frederick Bales. For that shift in consciousness to show up in form, we must first do the work that makes it part of the fabric of our being. Because until we can sustain it in consciousness, we cannot sustain it in form. And with that knowing, Myrtle went to work. She spoke words of truth daily to herself, informing every particle of her being that all of her was inseparable from God. And she did this deliberately, with diligence, with patience, with attention to detail, being gentle with what showed up and leaving no stone unturned. She knew that it wasn't enough to just have this initial revelation while sitting in E.B. Weeks' lecture. She knew she had to bring it all the way home into the core of her being, into a knowing so deep that nothing else was entertainable. Frederick Bales did the same thing, daily speaking words of truth and being impeccably honest with himself about the beliefs that surfaced as he worked. This is where prayer comes in. And for some of us, and for a variety of reasons, that word prayer can have a bit of a charge on it. So I'd like to take this opportunity to dust that off, because prayer is central to what we do in Unity. And having a charge around what is central to what we do ain't helpful. So here in New Thought Land, we pray in a particular and possibly peculiar kind of way that enables us to create a position in consciousness. Many don't even call it prayer. Some call it scientific mind treatment, spiritual mind treatment, divine argument. But no matter what you want to call it, prayer in New Thought, in my opinion, is telling ourselves the capital T truth to the best of our current knowing. And in New Thought, this means that there is one infinite something. It is omnipresent. It is omniscient. It is omnipotent. We are created by it and out of it and cannot be separate from it. Therefore, what is true about it is true about us. And in one form or another, with flowery words or simple ones, we tell ourselves that truth over and over and over until we get it. Over and over, because for most of us, it takes a while to really, really get it so that it sticks on the inside where it matters. But when we think the outer is the goal, many of us use the Peekaboo method of prayer work. And I know you know what I mean, I've done it too, where we pray and then we check to see if it's materialized yet. Kind of like planting a carrot seed and then pulling it up over and over and over to see if it's become a carrot yet. We play peekaboo with our longed for outer manifestations rather than focusing on deepening our knowing of the truth. We need to look to the inside for results. In my opinion, true healing involves discovering those little T truths that we think we know, the ones that limit us, the ones that keep us thinking small. And if we can't, don't, or won't see them, then they continue to silently run the show behind the scenes from our subconscious. Remember, we teach that all thought is creative. I like to think of it vibrationally. Healing or waking up is about raising our vibration. As we raise our vibration, anything that is unlike that higher vibration, that small thinking little T stuff that has a lower vibration, is exposed. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just a lower frequency. But once seen, we can pull our energy out of those little T truths and place our awareness, our attention, our focus on capital T truth. As Frederick Bales liked to say, I turn every last thread of my thought to the contemplation of that steady movement of the thought of God in me and through every single cell of my body. We place full faith in the intelligence and wisdom of the one infinite presence that is in and through and as all things. And as we do this, we reveal the truth that is always there, the truth of what and who we truly are. And we come into a fuller awareness of our oneness with this amazing allness, with this amazing love, this incredible wisdom, all with a humble vulnerability that makes us powerful. And the more we focus on the inner, keeping our attention on God, the more likely our outer circumstances will change. And those outer circumstances do change because our inner landscape changes, because our consciousness changes. So here it is with a bow. All healing takes place in consciousness. Even when we think we know that, we often do our work with one eye cracked open, looking for tangible results. And when we feel that the only validation that the work is real and worthwhile is what shows up in the physical, then we miss out on the true value of the work. The true value is the spiritual awakening, the quickening of spirit. What is the true meaning of healing? It is deeply knowing the truth of ourselves, the truth that we are inseparably one with an infinite creative intelligence. When we know that we are truly inseparable from the infinite, from the one, when we get it in our bones, that every particle of our being is made up of God stuff, that's the healing. That's the spiritual awakening. And so if after we do all this inner work and growth and shifting, what if we don't get what we think we want? After all, Ernest Holmes was pretty emphatic. We do not teach that you can get what you want. Let me answer it like this. If Myrtle didn't have her actual physical healing, would there still be value in the work that she did? And by extrapolation, if we also don't have the expected healing, did our work still have value? If the car doesn't show up or the perfect job, or if our illness isn't completely healed, did our work still have value? What if the gain was greater peace of mind? Would that be worth it? What if the gain was the joy of really knowing the truth of who we truly are? What if the gain was experiencing a more profound love? As soul, we get to keep that when we shed our mortal coil. We can't take any of the rest of it with us, but we do get to keep whatever love we gained, whatever peace we gained, whatever joy we gained, whatever wisdom we gained. And Myrtle agrees. In her words, do not be concerned if you do not always get from your study and your prayers the results that your senses take cognizance of. Your spiritual awakening is the important thing. Thank you for letting me chew on ideas with you. Will you join me in a time of meditation? Oh, I invite you to allow your eyes to gently close. Make yourself comfortable. and notice that you are being breathed. I invite you to follow this breath in and out and allow your body to relax into this now moment. You can't take a breath in the past and we can't take a breath in the future. So placing your attention on your breath allows your awareness to arrive here in this moment. Allow yourself to bring as much of your attention as you can to this holy, sacred moment, right here, right now. And allow yourself to just be here. And as you sit in this now moment, wherever you are, whether you're in your sanctuary or whether you're at home, even as you are being still, notice that your body is supporting you being here in this moment. You are being breathed through no conscious volition of your own. Your heart is beating through no conscious volition of your own. Your body is keeping you upright, holding your head up so that you can be right here. And there are a myriad of other processes happening right now, all in support of you sitting here in this moment. Cells are taking in nourishment and releasing waste. Neural messages are flying back and forth at dizzying speeds from and to different parts of your body, all without you having to consciously do anything. Take a moment to notice the miracle of all that is in support of you sitting here, allowing you to have this experience of beingness within the context of a human experience. And as you sit in this now moment, even as you are being still, notice the support that is taking place in that which surrounds you. Chair or floor or cushion that you are sitting on is supporting you sitting right here in this moment. The electricity that powers the computers that currently connect us, the internet, the light, the heat that warms your home, the music that might be playing in the background, all delivered in support of you being right here, having this experience of beingness in this moment. And notice that there are people driving by in the cars outside that are in support of you sitting right where you are. Some of them work for utility companies or restaurants or grocery stores or manufacturing plants or clothing stores, all supporting you sitting right where you are, breathing, aware, fed, warm, dressed. The oxygen being produced by the trees, which in turn are sustained by the soil, which is itself maintained by countless organisms, the sunlight, the rain, which in turn is part of the great cycle of life, becoming and unbecoming, all these things, shifting and changing, all supporting you, sitting right where you are, breathing and being. Notice that even the intricate balance of the gravity of the earth and the rotation, the spinning, the movements of the heavenly bodies, all of it, supporting you, sitting right where you are, right now, having this experience of beingness in this moment, all of it connected in one way or another to you. It is impossible for you to be outside of God. You are intimately and intricately a part of this beautiful whole because you cannot not be. Life, presence, spirit, mind, ground of all being is supporting you in every possible way to just be here in this moment. You are fully supported. Surrender to this truth. Align yourself with it. You are fully supported. And if anything other than this truth arises, fear, uncertainty, doubt, don't resist it. Don't push it. Don't fear it. Don't attempt to change it. Just allow it to be there. Know that the infinite intelligence that is presence knows exactly what to do. To surrender to what is and let this truth have its way with you. And as you sit in the miracle of this grand knowing, allow wonder and gratitude to rise in your appreciation of this staggering, infinite intelligence that is in full support of you as a spiritual being having this human experience. And when you're ready, allow your eyes to gently open. And if you would, allow this knowing to remain with you. We let it be so, and so it is.